Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Hardware Podcast. My name is Jackson Danner, alongside my good friend Omar Borja. We are talking our Week 4 preview, which I know I say every episode almost that the season flies by, but it really does. We're going to be talking for a lot of teams, a third of their season will be finished by the end of this week. Thankfully, not the Ivy League schools as they are starting play this week, but Omar, how are you feeling about week 4? We're going into what late September. We'll be in officially like late September, and then we get into October, third Saturday in October, November rivalry week. Like it's it all flies by quick, man.
Yeah. I mean, it flies by quick. It's pretty crazy how the anticipation builds for the whole off season, then only for the weeks to kind of like pile up on one another. Like I mentioned with Bobby, the TNT College Football Podcast. I mean, it's crazy how as a player or a coach you're preparing for it because Bobby's a former coach, former I think Division 3 women's basketball coach. Like, during the season, it seems so long and arduous because you're preparing, and as a player, the football season just seems so long too because you played football too. But like as a fan, like we just go to work Monday through Wednesday, wait for the games to show up on Thursday, and then lather, rinse, repeat. So I think that's what makes it so quick. But yeah, I mean, already week 4, we got the IVs this week, so that's always a sign that the season's still young, but at the same time rolling along.
Absolutely, but it is not too early in the season to talk about the Heisman as we like to do almost every week. So, Omar, I will ask a question that you brought up. Is it too? Can we take Jake Retzlaff seriously, the quarterback from Tulane? Do we have to wait until he beats Ole Miss this week? Maybe a game that we're going to talk about a little bit later. I don't know. You tell me, Omar. What do you think?
Yeah, so I think with Jake Retzlaff, with his candidacy, he has the benefit of being kind of a big name with the power conference pedigree. Really, I mean, the circumstances are quite unfortunate that he got to Tulane. So I'm not sure if the Heisman voters will factor that into the conversation. Really, but so far Retzlaff has been lights out. Honestly, I mean, he's been not I wouldn't say the not great passing the ball, like not really out of this world numbers with 522 passing yards, but running the ball like Retzlaff has crafted together one of the best running seasons so far for any quarterback in the country. I mean, right now he's got 288 rushing yards. He's already got 2/5 of his season carries total from last year at BYU. He's got 40 carries so far. We had 100 last year, and he's got over. I mean, I'm no mathematician, but he's got over 60%. I want to say, let me do the math really quick. He's got 288 rushing yards so far, but the rushing touchdowns, like he's got 6 rushing touchdowns, which means 20 is within reach. And I'm not sure if he'll continue at that pace, but just looking at how heavily Tulane ran him against Duke this past weekend on third and shorts on quarterback dives. I mean, the offense caters to him getting those running opportunities. And if he's still good passing the ball, sorry, it turns out it's not 60%. No, sorry, whoops, did the wrong 280 divided by 4.
It is extremely early in the morning
It's
for
60,
Omar,
it's
so forgive him
69.
for his.
Yeah, it's 69%. He's got 69% of his 2024 rushing total. So I think if Tulane will continue giving him the carries, I think if he gets 20 touchdowns and Tulane goes undefeated with some of the marquee games that they have, I absolutely think that Jake Retzlaff will be in the Heisman race. But then again, with the Heisman race, there's kind of a church boy clause with it, right? Where I mean, Jameis Winston had a little bit of controversy with the whole crab legs, and I'm not sure if the sexual assault settlement was actually during his time, I guess as a Heisman candidate, excuse me, and then all the way back in '71, like Johnny Rodgers of Nebraska got arrested. People overlook that though. Johnny Rodgers is a standout citizen, really great football player, obviously. Great Nebraska Cornhusker. So, I mean, it just depends, but that it is interesting with Retzlaff. Um, but I think honestly, Tulane has a chance to really do something special. Like I am in awe of just how great they've been so far. And if they go 3-0 with a loss to Ole Miss, like and end up winning the American, at 12-0. That I'm really intrigued to see what their seed could be. But I think Retzlaff. I think it's time to start talking Retzlaff or Heisman, to be honest with you.
We can talk about it, but in my opinion, I think you have to be a dual threat guy if you're gonna play the card of like he's great at running the ball as a quarterback. It's not that he's like been bad at passing. It's just like he only has 2 passing touchdowns, right? So the 6 like is really cool when you have like another like 5 or 6 to back it up with passing. And right now it's like against it's almost like a one-dimensional statistically, right? I haven't watched enough of Retzlaff to see like what his passing game is really like, but we all know that stats are the first thing that a lot of Heisman voters look for. So just being lazy, looking at that same thing, it doesn't have the wow factor when you don't have the passing to back it up as well. So, but he wasn't a big runner at BYU, which is like what's surprising, right? Like you said, he already has almost 70% of his rushing total from last year. So that's what's surprising, where he didn't even strike me every time I watched him. He didn't strike me necessarily as even that mobile of a guy. So I don't know what's changed. Good for him. Good for Tulane. Hopefully they can keep that up. If that pace continues, then maybe that's a little bit different, because I mean, he had 0 rushing touchdowns the week before Duke, right? And then he had 4 against Duke. So like it's going to be hard to keep that consistent, if that makes sense. It's not like he's having 2 a game, So even though that is his pace on paper right now. So but no, we've got as far as I always look at the betting odds, right? As far as for Heisman, so just kind of the top 8 guys: John Mateer from Oklahoma, Carson Beck, unfortunately, from Miami, Dante Moore from Oregon, Jeremiah Smith, obviously a receiver from Ohio State, Garrett Nussmeier from LSU, Gunnar Stockton from Georgia, Joey Aguilar from Tennessee, which is one that I do agree with. Aguilar's had a spectacular season so far. They deserve to beat Georgia on Saturday. And then Julian Sand, the true freshman from Ohio State. So those are your top 8. Jake Retzlaff notably not in there in the top 8. So Omar, a little bit of Doak Walker Award real quick for Robert Henry, who you brought to my attention. Tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, so Robert Henry Jr. for UTSA so far has 47 carries for 480 yards and 6 touchdowns. He's basically a human first down at running back, and he's been really impressive. Like every time I look, he's having games like he had against Texas A&M, where he had 16 carries for, I think it was 177 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns. Have to look up the game by game stats again, but Robert Henry Jr. has been impressive, and I think he can keep up the pace, because in his first 3 games he's been electric. Honestly, he doesn't have as much of a heavy workload, but I think 1,500, 1,600 yards is in store, and he's leading the country in rushing, most importantly. So I mean, I kind of wonder, honestly, whether we'll see another group of 5 Doak Walker finalists slash honestly winner. But I think I want to say that the momentum created by Ashton Jeanty last year with his 2,000-yard season, I guess, garnered enough respect for the group of 5 to last a few years, and that won't keep that momentum going. But part of me also points to guys like Lou Nichols in 2021, who had over 1,600 yards for your favorite former Florida coach, Jim McElwain, and led the nation in rushing, but did not get any consideration for the Doak Walker Award. I don't even think he was a finalist.
Ken Walker by over 200 yards. Yeah. Actually, I Googled Sincere McCormick, like where he landed, because the UTSA back just it reminded me of that. And that's I just saw that too. I just was reminded of that from. So I think 2021 kind of answers our question to that. I don't know if Ashton Jeanty builds enough hype. If we're, in my opinion, it doesn't necessarily help that Jeanty is not having an outstanding rookie season so far, right? It's not, it loses some credibility if you're like casually following the NFL, which I can say I'm like casually following the Raiders, like, you know, I casually follow anyone that's not Tampa. Is like he's not having a, you know, mind blowing season like a lot expected to. So. But anyways, I saw some meme on like NFL memes, like Ashton Genty when he realizes he's not playing, you know, Sycamore Valley State, you know, 2 a.m. on ESPNU or something like that. It just speaks to what the public's impression of Group of 5 running backs is. So
That's just stupid. Yeah, those
yeah,
memes are stupid.
I agree. It is stupid, but
Yeah, those are just
there's a learning curve for every rookie back, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, like Brian Robinson got. I don't even think he got to finish his rookie contract before he got traded, or not. Yeah. Brian Robinson, but Brian Robinson. I don't think he even got to finish his rookie contract before he got traded to the Niners. So
it speaks to what the you know, if you know, SEC guy struggles, as you know, we don't say too much about Ashton Genty, who's like the, you know, a lot of discourse about him deserving to be the Heisman winner, including us. And then, you know, he goes into the NFL and struggles as, oh man, yeah, Group of 5 guy. So
yeah, honestly, give me a break. Like really, like with all those fans. I mean, Tyson Bagent's a backup, you know, with a contract extension going to Shepherd, like undrafted out of Shepherd. So it's like, I don't really have time, honestly.
I know it's dumb. It's dumb, but it speaks to probably where voters may be coming from, right? So we see voters say a lot of things, including the AP poll. So we won't go back into that. Omar, who was your offensive player of the week from week 3?
Oh, man. So I am very excited to talk about my offensive player of the week. I have long been on this player's, I guess, bandwagon, honestly, last year because that's how I found out about him. But Ralph Rucker IV had 405 yards. He had more than one touchdown than his numeric next to his name. He had 5 touchdowns against VMI as him and Colin Shannon went throw for throw in front of a crowd of, man, I'm sorry, I gotta look up the attendance on this one because Bucknell never gets good draw out of their games, but in front of a crowd of 2,058 fans in front of an over 90% empty Christy Mathewson Stadium. I know I posted a meme about it was a picture of Tom Brady and Peyton Manning. It was like Colin Shannon and Ralph Rucker in front of a 90% empty stadium in Pennsylvania. But Ralph Rucker IV, he's giving me kind of memories of Tim DeMorat in Fordham. Just a great passer. I think he might even be a bit more pro ready than DeMorat was because Bucknell's system isn't as pass heavy as that 21-22 Fordham system was with DeMorat, which DeMorat was lights out. But Rucker, I mean, was a Power 5 recruited to Oklahoma, transferred to Bucknell, has had an amazing career there. And, you know, he's been lights out. Like I want to start a nickname too for him. Honestly, we'll call him the Bloodline. Ralph Rucker IV. When we start that, Ralph Rucker IV, the Bloodline out of Bucknell. But I want to ask you, Jackson, who was the last quarterback to get drafted to the NFL by Bucknell, or to drafted by the NFL from Bucknell?
Could not tell you.
That would be one, Sam Havrilak. The former great Colts, defensive back, running back, wide receiver, a dual threat. He was drafted by the Colts in the 8th round in 1969 with a 207th pick. That is the type of history that I think Ralph Rucker can set. He's a front runner for the Hula Bowl. He's pro ready. I would not be surprised if the Hula Bowl, the American Bowl, gives him a look, the upcoming American Bowl on NFL Network this year. I mean, just a great passer, 405 yards, 5 touchdowns against VMI. I mean, Bucknell hasn't seen a quarterback like him in a while.
That was right on the tip of my tongue. I did, just barely missed that one. No, you have been on his hype train for a while, so it's good to see that he is hopefully going to get some more formal recognition. As much as I'm sure he loves us talking about him on here, maybe being on NFL Network would be a little more validating. So, my offensive player of the week, I'm going with Keyshawn Owens, a running back from FIU, in a 38-20 win over FAU. He had 19 attempts for 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, and another 3 receptions for 19 yards. It's refreshing with Owens that he's a fifth-year senior that has spent his entire career at FIU. He's not been, hasn't chased more playing time going down. He hasn't, chased more money going up. But he already has more yards this year than his entire 2024 campaign and on 36 fewer attempts. So a great season ahead for Owens.
I mean, you can call that the Javante Price effect. I guess they just breed good running backs there at FIU. I know it's a different coaching regime, but I mean, yeah, that is actually surprising that he is a fifth-year senior with all the coaching turnover that they've had, which means, let's see, 2020. I think that would make, who's the coach in 2020? I want to say he's been under three coaches because I think Butch Davis retired after the 2021 season. Then his replacement came, which I couldn't even name you his replacement. And then now with Willie Simmons. So, I mean, yeah, kudos to Owens. But yeah, I mean, FIU has good running backs. FIU's off to a 2-1 start. Like, they are a plausible bowl team. The game against Delaware is one that I'm circling because that will kind of show who's a contender and who's a pretender in Conference USA. But I was pleasantly surprised, even though I'm Mr. American Conference fanboy, the unofficial fanboy of the American Conference. I was impressed with how they were able to beat their fellow South Florida rival. So Kajan Owens was lights out, and so it was Butch Davis, and then his next coach. Okay, so three coaches in 5 years. Really, I guess a throwback to an older era Owens is, but yeah, I mean, love the pick.
Absolutely. And if they can get on a little bit of a hot streak, they end the season playing Liberty, Jacksonville State, and Sam Houston. Sam Houston obviously having a disappointing season, but Liberty and Jack State not looking too shabby. But they play, like you mentioned, Delaware this weekend, bye week at UConn, at Western Kentucky, Kennesaw State, Missouri State, Middle Tennessee. So it's very plausible that you just need 4 more wins out of those, right? And Sam Houston at the end. So even if you drop a couple that you're expected to drop, still a bowl season, very possible for FIU. So, Omar, who is your defensive player of the week?
Yeah, so my defensive player of the week, I'm gonna go with. Get my notes again. I'm gonna go with. Sorry, too many tabs, too many. I got the ESPN app open too. Michael Mack the second for Ohio, 5 tackles, 1 interception. And this is something I talked about last night on the last podcast I recorded. It should be out this morning as well. But I mean, I think Ohio with a different schedule, one that's like less tough than the 3 power conference teams they've already played this year, I really think that they could be a playoff team this year. It's just the American has too many schools with stacked resumes so far, I guess. The American could also cannibalize itself. But, I mean, for Ohio, too, Michael Mack and that Ohio defense was really, really solid, honestly, considering the way the offense played at times against Ohio. I think Parker Navarro on the pass offense barely cracked 100 yards against the Buckeyes. But they were in that game. In the later stages of the third quarter, they were in that game against the Buckeyes, or early in the third quarter. They brought it to within 4 points, and it
was 10-6 at halftime. So
yeah,
it was not a blowout, even though at glance it might seem like that.
Yeah, so I mean, honestly, when you think of Ohio, you think of Ohio defensive backs, you think of Mike Mitchell, the longtime defensive back for the Raiders and for the Steelers. So I mean, maybe Mac will follow the same path. He's got the same initials as Mike Mitchell, double N's. So that counts for something. But honestly, Ohio, I wouldn't be surprised if Ohio kind of runs through the MAC on the way to the MAC title game. The MAC is incredibly balanced, but from what I've seen, Buffalo has been disappointing. They almost lost to Kent State. Toledo is always going to be good, usually. Northern Illinois, the same. But, man, Ohio has just shown that they can compete with anyone in the country.
And Eastern Michigan has had a disappointing season thus far, but with how consistent they usually are, I wouldn't be surprised if they bounce back, right? It's a good It's a good culture team. It's obviously that maybe the worst FBS loss thus far to LIU, but
I mean, Eastern Michigan though, they're a good program. They're solid. They consistently go to bowls. But the thing is they're middle of the pack at best most years, and it just shows because they've never been to the MAC championship game. They're good for at best a solid 8-4, but most years they're just a 7-5 team. Chris Creighton finds a way. Like
But
in
they might surprise a game or two and help keep things interesting, right? So
yeah, but I mean,
even if they are middle of the pack, usually there's at least one game on there that I feel like it's like, oh wow, didn't see that coming. And they won that one, didn't they?
yeah.
But my defensive player of the week, I'm going with Hudson Vajesser, linebacker from Northern Colorado. In an overtime loss to South Dakota, he had 16 tackles, a tackle for loss, and quarterback hurry. Usually we don't highlight guys with losses, but the whole of the South Dakota team that was in the Final Four last year to just, I think, 17 points in regulation. And they were, holding them to 7 of 19 in passing and 4 of 11 on third down. Just an impressive performance all around by Northern Colorado's defense, and Hudson played the largest part of that of anyone. So just wanted to highlight him. I believe he was he was the Big Sky Defensive Player of the Week as well. So
yeah, like Northern Colorado is a team that really doesn't get much attention in the Big Sky. They really struggled, to be honest with you. So I mean, it's good that he's performing well. It's just tough, I guess, looking at the Big Sky with how stacked it is. I mean, Montana State, Montana, Idaho. Even though I think Idaho is looking like I would say less of a sure thing in terms, like, I'm sure they'll still make the playoff, but I'm not sure if they'll make a deep run. But I mean, the Big Sky is just so stacked. It's a shame that Northern Colorado hasn't been able to break through just yet. But man, what a performance on defense for your player of the week.
Yeah, no, you're right. Northern Colorado usually does not get much attention in the Big Sky, but Idaho has not been. Who was it? Yeah, because Idaho barely lost to Wazoo in week 1, and that was it. They like barely beat St. Thomas, Minnesota in week 2, which was a little surprising. And then they beat Utah Tech this previous week. So Fighting Taters need to get it together to make a deep FCS run, but FCS playoff run. But Omar, lastly, your HBCU Player of the Week from week 3.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with one of the more underrated storylines of the week this past week. We had John McCall for Kentucky State. He's a graduate student transfer from McNeese State. He had 8 catches for 81 yards. This is a big 6'3", 200-pound receiver. But Kentucky State almost beat Grambling on the road and everything. Almost an embarrassing loss. No offense to Kentucky State, but this isn't a SEAC power. This isn't the same team that's running the option all the way back in like 2021, 22 when we were talking about Brent Silv for the Thoroughbreds. But this is a team that hasn't really done the best in the SEAC, and they almost went down to Louisiana and beat Grambling. And this was a huge game for McCall, who is from Louisiana, from New Orleans, so knows about the G-men pretty well, knows about Southern especially very well. I would assume that he was recruited by those schools, but I mean, Kentucky State put up a valiant effort. They were leading at some point, but they lost 37-31. But McCall, honestly, nice big-bodied receiver, 6'3", 200 pounds. Will definitely get a look, I think, and is deserving of a look, I think, in the HBCU Legacy Bowl if he just continues how he's done so far. He's got 150 yards in 3 games so far. But man, I mean, so close for Kentucky State. And I mean, I think I just don't know. I don't know if they are a contender in the SEAC, because the SEAC is kind of loaded, to be honest with you. I mean, Edward Waters, who we'll probably talk about later on, is a great program. Miles, Miles is also a pretty solid program as well. I mean, they won the conference last year, but they were ravaged by the transfer portal. Almost no one returns to that defense, so it's kind of a stacked conference. But Kentucky State just, I guess, showed that maybe in a couple of years they'll be able to rise to the top. And McCall was a very solid receiver in that game against Grambling.
Omar, real quick, how could you not mention Clark Atlanta in the depth that the SIAC has when they had a win on ESPN too? Come on.
Yeah, but I mean, Clark Atlanta's still a year away, because they're. I mean, I would view them.
They are, but to the average football viewer, I think that's the best impression that the SIAC has made too. That's my only point. You're not wrong. I'm just
Donaldson Jr. though. Donaldson Jr. was
no, but Kentucky State's a Thoroughbreds with a win in an NFL stadium this year. in Ford Field week 1.
Yep.
So it's that. I think they play in Puerto Rico later this year too, in
They
October.
do. Yep, they
Which
do. Got a story
that's
coming up about that. I got a
if you
story
need an
coming up.
excuse to go to Puerto Rico, make sure you go while a college football game is being played. That's the only reason to go, in my opinion. Same thing with the Bahamas. My HBCU player of the week, Wyatt Wright, a linebacker from Alabama A&M. He had 6 total tackles, including 5 solo, 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and a quarterback hurry, and a 23-21 thriller win over Tennessee State. Wyatt Wright he's a transfer from Arkansas State. So Razorback fans, if the name sounds familiar, he got 2 sacks on the road against Arkansas in week 1, both of which came while the game was still competitive, while Arkansas was a little sleepy. Obviously, they pulled away and ended up having a blowout win, but it was a one or 2 score game when he had both of those sacks. So Wyatt Wright, a name to keep an eye on throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean Alabama A&M is kind of a program. It's in transition a bit. I know they just recently fired Connell Maynor, but it's a shame because the SWAC East is generally more loaded than the SWAC West. So it's hard to see them break through for a celebration or for a Celebration Bowl appearance or breakthrough even out of the SWAC East for the SWAC championship game. But man, with defense like that, you can only just be optimistic about the Bulldogs, and they get a bit of a reprieve this week. I mean, the Tennessee State one was huge in that rivalry that they resurrected, but against Lane, I mean, I think he'll have another lights out game. Hopefully, they don't lose to Lane like Tennessee State did a couple years ago. You definitely don't want to lose to Division II, but yeah. Also, Jackson, I know you mentioned the Fort Valley State Clark Atlanta game. Shout out to Don Hudson Jr. who showed out on that Thursday night scale. Like he was accurate, 21 for 26 last night. Short passes, but threw for 2 touchdowns. But he was slippery as a cod running the ball. Anytime I see him like in the pocket, like they could not catch him. So he's only a freshman. Like he had 141 rushing yards. So man, maybe Fort Valley State can break through for a playoff appearance. I know it's been a little bit of some time, but man, Hudson Jr. Man, I was really impressed. It was a fun watch on a Thursday night.
Yeah, on the red turf, absolutely. And with a not necessarily very competitive game on Prime Video with Green Bay and Washington. So hopefully some fans flipping over if you didn't want to watch the smoky haze of week 4 Cincy State. So with the food truck fire, but. Omar, your first of 3 games of the week to watch for week 4.
Yeah, so my first game of the week to watch for game 4, as I pull up my notes on my phone, I got Edward Waters versus Bethune-Cookman this week. So Edward Waters is 3-0 for the first time ever. I know that there's a video of their coach getting a little bit emotional after the first 3-0 start was going kind of viral. But I think this is a perfect storm for Edward Waters because Bethune-Cookman, as sad as it seems for how powerful they were in the 2000s, this is not your mom and dad's Bethune-Cookman program. Or this is not maybe your older brother, older sister's, Bethune-Cookman program because about 10, 15 years ago. But this is not the same program. Like this team went 2-10 last year. More importantly, they lost a game to Clark Atlanta. The same Clark Atlanta. We need a Clark Atlanta counter because we have mentioned them a lot. But they lost to Clark Atlanta last year on an electric game-winning field goal. They lost 38-37 at home, and this Clark Atlanta team was not as good as this Edward Waters team because this Edward Waters team can score in bunches right now. Like they are averaging 42 points a game. They have an incredibly balanced attack. Noah Bodden has 729 yards with 6 touchdowns and no interceptions so far. And this offensive strengths match up well with Cookman because Bethune-Cookman allowed 335 passing yards last week against South Carolina State. So honestly, it would be incredibly sad for Bethune-Cookman to have another loss to a Division II school after how proud that program was years ago. But on the other hand, Edward Waters, to my knowledge, has not beaten a FBS team ever since they moved up to Division II, not since they were NAIA school. But what a huge moment that would be for this program. You can find that game too. Accessible. More accessible than most games on HBCU Go. Just got to pull up the kickoff time. But man, I'm putting Bethune-Cookman on upset alert against Edward Waters because that's a program that's in free fall that has tried everything, to be honest with you, including hiring and unhiring Ed Reed. But it's just, it's just not sticking. And I can see the same fate because this Edward Waters team, like we said, a loaded SEAC, like they are part of that crop of good programs in the SEAC so far. And you can find that game. I just got to verify. It's not, maybe, I don't know if it's HBCU Go or SWAC TV, because the SWAC just recently started their streaming service. It will be on. This is great. It's on Matt Stars Sports.
No, Edward Waters with a couple shout outs in the past couple weeks. So shout out to Northwest Jacksonville. So my first game of the week to watch, I'm going with Saginaw Valley State, a D2 school at New Haven, who recently became D1. So Saginaw Valley State off to a 1-2 start. Last year they started the opposite. They started off strong at 5-1 and then finished 2-3, narrowly missed the D2 playoffs. So they're still seeking their first conference championship since 2003 in a league that's just been dominated by Ferris State and Grand Valley State over the past 7 years or so. For New Haven, Mark Powell is the interim head coach. New Haven let go of their coach of the past 11 years in May for unknown reasons. Mark Powell is a cool story and kind of an unusual rise in the coaching ranks. So he graduated from Lafayette, became a grad assistant at Mississippi State, hopped around to a few other D1 schools as an assistant before becoming the defensive coordinator at Darien High School in Connecticut. Omar, if that sounds familiar, that's where our wedding was and the reception and all that. But no, he was managing his small business, Cookie 39, in New Haven while being the defensive coordinator at Darien High School. So then, before the 2024 season, he was named the defensive coordinator for New Haven. In 2025, New Haven becomes an FCS program. Then New Haven suddenly lets go of their coach and he's named the interim head coach. So just like that, he goes from being a high school defensive coordinator to a D1 head coach, which is in just a crazy series of events. But X's and O's wise, I'm not going to pretend I've turned on the tape for both schools and watched it. However, even in its first year as an FCS school, New Haven had 5 preseason all-conference players, which I thought was quite impressive for someone that's making the jump from D2. So, but no, something interesting to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, New Haven, they've been wanting to be a Division I team for a while, and they've looked really competitive in their first 3 weeks of the season as an FCS school. They had a huge win last week. I'm going to say, was it against Maine or no? I think it was against Albany. Sorry, I think it was against Albany actually, because Albany has struggled against Delaware State. I know it's early in the morning too. But yeah, they had a huge win on the road against Albany, which Albany is kind of a brand name in the FCS level. I mean, they've had a recently good run. I know in 2023, they had a deep run and faced Jason X Idaho Vandals in the KB Dome, I think, in the quarterfinals. So really huge name brand win. And like you said, like the transfers too. I mean, it's really amazing because I look at their quarterback. I mean, A. Duffy, that's a name that's familiar. I feel like I've heard that in FBS circles. Like, I mean, that's their quarterback too. So I think, yeah, I wouldn't say, obviously not an upset alert, but if they can get a good win against an established Division II team like Saginaw Valley State, like it's good for the momentum of the program, good for the NEC.
They play Pace in a couple weeks, so I'm sure Izzy will be hyped up for that one. So it'll be New Haven Heat Week in the Danner household. So
she works for Pace. Oh, she works. Okay, she works for Pace. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah.
Wow. No, not really. She has no vested interest. I don't think your coworkers do either. But
it's like Pace. Like if you want glue, there's a Staples down the street, Jackson.
Yeah, Pace University, notably 20 minutes north of us. So, what's your second game of the week to watch, Omar?
Yeah, so I'm gonna ride the wave, or just continue just to follow the hose, the blue hose that is. I mean, what a story! Honestly, it's still the story of the FCS season, and I don't care if they beat Erskine to continue to be 3-0. This is their first 3-0 start since 1979, or not 1979. Their first 3-0 start since 1979, and if they win, it'll be their first 4-0 start since 1960 when they went to, since 1959 when they went to the Tangerine Bowl. I mean, just what a story, honestly. I mean, Colin Hurst, if I had to vote for the Walter Payton right now, Colin Hurst would be my number one just for the type of games that he's had. He's had a couple of 300-yard games. One of them against a Southern Conference team, or one of them against a Southern Conference team. He had another, I think, close to 290-yard game against in that high-scoring game against Furman. 275 yards. He had 350 yards against Erskine. Looks like he'll have another 350-yard game against Bluefield. Presbyterian will play Bluefield this week. That will be on ESPN Plus at 12 Central Time. But I mean, if Presbyterian starts 4-0, I think it's time to not only start talking about the making the playoff as a conference champion. I think if they end up losing a game in the Pioneer Football League and by some reason through some tiebreaker don't win the conference championship with a 10-1 or 11-1 record, I'm not sure they played 11 or 12 games. Like, I think with their 2 wins over Southern Conference teams, like, I think you got to give them an at-large bid. I mean, and that would be the first in the Pioneer Football League's history, but I mean, that's not a concern right now. Like, this Presbyterian team is on fire. They're doing something that hasn't been done in almost 60 years, and it feels like 59 out there in Clinton, South Carolina.
Or for my second game of the week, I'm riding the green wave and going Tulane at Ole Miss. Tulane is maybe the most interesting 3-0 team in the country. They blew out Northwestern by the same margin that Oregon did in week 1. Jake Retzlaff, who we already talked about, 2 passing touchdowns, 6 rushing touchdowns, still early in the season, can't quite figure out what he is. And the defense has looked legit. Javian White is tied as the FBS interception leader with 3 so far. He also had the game-sealing stop on the 2-point conversion attempt versus South Alabama. Ole Miss seems like they're finally kind of settling in. You can tell that just from their depth chart that's newly released. They made a couple of changes, nothing drastic. Just Delano Townsend is going to get the left guard spot over PJ Wilkins, who started thus far. Same thing with linebacker Jaden Yates. He's going to get the start over Taj Chambers. So, but a cool full circle moment for Tulane head coach John Sumrall. His first game actually as a head coach for Troy at the time was at Ole Miss. Monty Kiffin, who's Lane Kiffin's dad and Buccaneers Ring of Honor coach, came up to him afterward and said, hey, Ole Miss was a better team, but your kids played hard. Keep doing what you're doing, which would mean a lot to any young head coach just having played or having coached their first game. So, but anyways, no, Tulane might be the best group of 5 team. Hard to figure that out right now. Like I said, still early in the season. But anytime you beat Duke, Duke just spent $8 million on their quarterback. Right. So cool to see Tulane get the win there. And we'll hopefully find a little bit more about them as far as where they stand. Obviously, I expect Tulane to lose, but if they can keep this competitive, maybe get some people to flip it on in the second half, it's going to be it will be good for their resume. A quality loss as such is valued in a 12-team playoff.
Yeah, I think they definitely have the leg up in the playoff race to a lot of conferences. I mean, I'd say if there's a team that maybe could overtake Tulane or the American Conference champion, the American in general, it'd probably be Ohio. Ohio, like we mentioned before, with 2 power conference losses. But if Tulane ends up somehow not, I shouldn't even say somehow. It's not even early. But if someone other than Tulane wins the American, I can see Ohio shuffling in. But man, like, what a year that Tulane's had. Like, they are definitely the front runner for the playoff, I would say. And a 3rd power conference win, like, we might even have to talk at large if they end up not winning the American, because a win over Ole Miss, and if Ole Miss is a playoff team, like, you got to give that some consideration for Tulane. So it's interesting. I mean, I'm not surprised with the first 2 games. I'm more surprised with Northwestern that they've struggled with Preston Stone in the first game. With Duke, I mean, John Sumrall, like, I get excited listening to John Sumrall. So I'm not surprised that he had them in that emotionally charged game against Duke. I'm not surprised that he had them, A1 and ready to go.
You find some sort of emotional aspect of the game, right? Whether it's disrespecting the entire city of New Orleans or playing your old quarterback. He's doing an excellent job leaning into something. Omar, quickly, who is your last game of the week to watch?
So my last game of the week is Harvard at Stetson. That is the rare, in fact, the rare Ivy League team to go to Florida. In fact, the first time that Harvard has played a game in the state of Florida ever. They'll be playing at Spec Martin Stadium, new home of the Hula Bowl. Actually, it's been kind of quietly released by the Hula Bowl, but I mean, a player to watch. Ty Bartram. We talked about him on the Shrine Bowl 1000 preview. We did just a great hard-nosed safety who I can see with his future in special teams, but also Jaden Craig. Jaden Craig, too, is a guy that you're aware of because he made the Shrine Bowl, or not, the Senior Bowl 300, I want to say it was, as a quarterback at Harvard. So you think of Ryan Fitzpatrick, of course, you think of Harvard quarterbacks, but I mean, Jaden Craig is just a great pocket passer at 23 touchdowns and just 3 interceptions last year in Harvard's 10-game season. I mean, he doesn't run the ball as much, but this is his third year as a starter, third year with extensive starting time. I expect him to have a big game against Stetson. But the last time Stetson played at Ivy League school at home, they gave Princeton some trouble. I mean, it was 22-14 at halftime. They took a 14-7 lead early against the Tigers, so expect some trouble from Stetson, but maybe not this year, though. I mean, maybe not as much because Stetson did lose to Weber International, so.
My last game of the week to watch, I'm going with Villanova and Monmouth. Both teams coming off of disappointing FBS losses, but in different ways. Villanova blown out in Happy Valley, and then Monmouth kept it close at Charlotte before losing by just 7. Monmouth week 1 versus Colgate, they were down 31-7, then scored 35 unanswered points to get the win. They go against a Villanova team that's led by Buck Buchanan watch list linebacker Shane Hartzell. Only problem, Omar, it is on Flow Sports, which is the bane of watching football. But no, it'll be you could argue the FCS game of the week.
Yeah, I mean, Derek Robertson, I mean, talk about a really good quarterback. He's leading the FCS in passing, I believe, and he's someone, again, we talked about in our Shrine Bowl 1000 preview, like, what a year he's had so far. I mean, following the footsteps of Kenji Bahar, but yeah, like Villanova, I mean, routine power. This is their last year in CAA before going to the Patriot League. I mean, so yeah, like last year last year this South Jersey Philly kind of rivalry, if you will. But it's a shame. I don't think it's a free game this week. I think actually it might be the free game of the week this week. Actually, I'll have to see. But yeah, I mean, I hate that we have to diss Flow Sports like that.
Omar, anything else you got before we hop off?
No, not really. Just ready for another week of football.
You and me both. But no, it'll be a lot of fun. I feel like I feel like week 4, week 5 is really that turning point where we know the identity of a lot of these schools, right? So I think it'll be a good thing. Hopefully Notre Dame can get a win, right? First unranked, winless ranked team through week 4 in like a very long time.
Yeah,
I forget the exact year.
88, I think.
So yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think it is 88. So.
Yeah, but again, thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for listening, and Lord bless you and keep you, make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you, and peace, love, and soul in the Burger Popper.